November's come and gone, and the mobile game space was actually filled with some pretty good stuff. Hi folks, it's Falcon, and today on gameranx, the 10 best iOS and Android games of November 2019. Starting off at number 10, it's EVE Echoes, which is EVE Online's mobile spin-off. It's not in full release, but it has hit open beta, and at first glance, it's very much like EVE. In fact, if you like EVE and play EVE, you'll probably feel pretty at home. They haven't done a lot to even change the interface. They've adapted it, of course, to touch. It's not super advanced and amazing touch navigation or anything like that, but it certainly does what it needs to do. It's obviously in a phase where it's continually developing. This is a beta. They've added a few things like drones to it, and if you're aching for EVE online gameplay on your phone, it's going to scratch that itch. If you're also not necessarily deep into EVE Online on the PC, this is a good place to start. It's certainly a promising version of the game, and it's nice to have it with you at all times. EVE Echoes is in open beta, it is available on iOS and Android, and it doesn't cost you anything to play. And at number 9, Iron Force 2. So if you're interested in multiplayer tank battles on your phones, there's not really a lot of options. And out of those options, this is one of the more exciting. It's fun, realistic looking, and it doesn't have an overly complicated control scheme. You'll quickly find that it has level design that's really conducive to good competition, and because of that, it stays pretty action-packed. It's also got really great graphics. Everything is realistic and yet distinguishing enough to not get confused. Iron Force 2 is a really fun time. It's available on iOS and Android now for free. Moving on to number 8 is Magic Brick Wars, which, if you can imagine, basically Clash Royale plus obstacle blocks plus spells. That's probably the easiest way for me to explain it. It obviously doesn't go into it because this is a game that actually ends up being pretty action-packed. You do mining, you get resources, you can do these things in the context of a battle, and it's actually really refreshing and different. I mean, obviously you know what you're getting given the type of game it is, however, the battles actually end up a lot more involved due to the extra layer of mechanics, and honestly, like, I could see myself playing this game ongoing. I actually am a pretty ongoing Clash Royale player. This might give it a run. Magic Brick Wars is out on iOS and Android for free now. I would highly recommend at least giving it a shot if you like Clash Royale. Moving on to number 7, it's Crossing Void, which is a strategic turn-based RPG. I'm not familiar with the anime it's a crossover with, but I can tell you that the game itself is quite a bit of fun. I mean, as long as you're looking for a JRPG, I would say this is probably one to try this month. It's not perfect, but it is a fun story, and you unlock more characters and progress through a story that is at very least charming, although I'm not going to say it's going to blow your mind or anything. If you're a fan of the licensed anime, I'm sure it probably has more for you than it does for me, but I didn't find the story to be bad in any way. As you unlock and upgrade characters, you also have the ability to engage in PvP combat. It's pretty good, actually. That's, like, I would say one of the big reasons why this works as a mobile title, because otherwise it's kind of a visual novel slash strategy RPG. That tends to work better on other platforms, but it's good. I like the way that it's got everything set up. I'm not going to claim it's a perfect game, but I will say if you like JRPGs, it's worth your time for at least a try. Like I said, it's charming, it's enjoyable, and Crossing Void is available on iOS and Android now for free. Number 6 is Storyscape, which is basically a visual novel thing. There's a lot of different genres and different stories from a lot of different writers. And although I wouldn't probably recommend this if it didn't have great graphics in the way that it does, but it really does. It sells the stories to you very well, and it feels like you're actually part of them, especially as you're given different choices and branch the story. It's fun. It's a good visual novel platform, basically. And I would say definitely give it a shot. Storyscape is rated mature, keep that in mind, but it's free on both iOS and Android right now. Moving on to number 5 is Renegade Racing. This is a fun multiplayer racing game that you end up doing a lot of wild stuff in. There's stunts, and if it weren't side-scrolling, I'll bet that it would sound a lot like a Mario Kart game, but it is side-scrolling. In a lot of ways, it'll actually remind you of a sort of old-school Flash game, but a little better. Basically, it's 1 versus 5 multiplayer races, where different arenas are arranged in different tiers. You have to win races in order to unlock more levels. And the game is genuinely fun. It holds itself together really well, really develops a sense of momentum, and gets the whole adrenaline system pumping. And like I said, it gives a little bit of nostalgia for a time past when people made Flash games that were absolutely absurd. This is one of those games, but like I said, a little more slick, a little nicer. Renegade Racing is out on iOS and Android right now for free. Moving on to number 4, it is Soccer Manager 2020, which is actually a pretty good-looking 3D soccer game. Now, keep in mind I say good and not great. There are better-looking soccer games. But what it doesn't have in pure graphical prowess, it makes up for in personality. It's a very good sim. There's 800 different teams. You plan training, you assemble teams, decide on tactics, and in every way, it's basically a very competent and enjoyable football management simulator. Now, keeping in mind it's not the only one, it's also free and offers a lot of features at the 0 price point. So if it sounds like something you might enjoy, I'm willing to bet it is. Soccer Manager 2020 is out on iOS and Android now for free. And at number 3 is Minecraft Earth. Keeping in mind this is the early access version of the game, there is a lot to talk about. Minecraft Earth is basically Minecraft Go, if that makes any sense. Now, it's not actually anything like Pokemon Go in any way that isn't the fact that it's an augmented reality game. That's pretty much where the similarities stop, but I have seen a lot of people make that comment and didn't want to miss out on it. It's what you expect augmented reality Minecraft to be. You gather materials, you build stuff in augmented reality, you place it in the real world. It's persistent and it's very cool. I will also say that there are some minor limitations in the fact that a phone is only so big. I could imagine this actually being a lot better with a tablet. However, it would obviously have to be a tablet with internet, of course. But this is actually pretty impressive. It controls fairly intuitively. Like, it'll take a minute to figure it out and the tutorial's a little clumsy, but I don't think you'll have much issue with it. I definitely want to go forward playing this game. It is fun. I like it. I think it's a good idea, and I look forward to it developing further than where it is now, because now it's actually good. Minecraft Earth is out in early access. It's free on iOS and Android right now. Moving on to number 2, it's Rebel Racing, which brings you a large number of licensed cars to a number of West Coast locations that are not completely normal for a racing game. There's a lot of beach stuff in this game. And it also doesn't try to go for hyper-realistic graphics. It, of course, wants the cars to look very cool and look like the licensed car they are, but it actually goes for a very clean, simple look that I think really benefits the game, because a lot of the time these games are trying to look realistic, and even though phones have progressed very far and they look good, a lot of these games need something distinct to them, and Rebel Racing actually has it. It's also really smooth, it controls really well, and I'd say probably your only real problems with this game are the fact that you're waiting for fuel to replenish and stuff like that. I would say it's a really good package as far as racing games go. Would I say it's the best one I've ever played? Not necessarily, but I think it has a lot of potential. Potential that I don't see in a lot of racing games on mobile. And I think that as they develop it, or if they develop a sequel, this is really going to be a big game. Rebel Racing is available for free on iOS and Android now. And finally at number 1 is Battlebreakers, which is a new hero collector RPG from a small team at Epic Games. The marketing materials call it a passion project. I would say it's definitely on the good end of hero collector RPGs. Sometimes this is a divisive genre, I admit, but I find myself having a pretty decent time with this one. And I'm going to go ahead and say I think that the main reason for that is that the battle system is fairly unique. In a lot of ways, it plays like a card game. In a lot of ways, it's also a hexagonal grid strategy tactics game. It is not Clash Royale. It might be fairly easy to get that impression from the footage. It's really nothing like Clash Royale. Every character individually has health. You're using them strategically against various foes. I would highly recommend playing it. Honestly, it's unique and fun, and I really enjoy it. Battlebreakers is, of course, free. Like I said, it is out on both iOS, Android, and on the Epic Store if you're interested in playing it on PC. It's actually genuinely worth it. I like it quite a bit. Couple of quick bonus games for you. Keeping in mind our bonus games are where we put the paid games for the month. We changed over to this format when the amount of paid games went down pretty drastically over the last year. Our first one is Grid AUTOSPORT. It is another racing game that is highly detailed. It is the complete AAA racing game for mobile. It comes with all the DLC. It's $9.99. It is a good game, and I would recommend it. Square Enix's Romancing Saga 3 is the next game we're looking at. This is an HD remaster of the 1993 Japanese released classic. It's great. I mean, there's literally no complaints on my part from this, other than the price. It's $28.99. They are definitely looking to get their money's worth out of HD remastering it, and might I add, it's not a particularly intense remaster. It still looks like an old school game, just with a lot more color and detail. And finally, Bright Memory Mobile, which is out only on iOS right now. It's an FPS combined with an adventure game. It's actually really cool. It's story-based, and it's kind of hard to get you interested in the story in a very brief description. There is an ancient sword, and there's a lot of powers and guns. It's pretty high quality too for the price. It's $3.99. It's available on iOS now. It will be available on Android soon. So did you play any of these games? Did you enjoy them, or are you going to try them? Leave us a comment. Let us know what you think. If you liked this video, please click like. If you're not subscribed, now's a great time to do so. We upload brand new videos every day of the week, and the best way to see them first is, of course, a subscription. So click subscribe, and don't forget to click the notification bell. As always, we thank you very much for watching this video. I'm Falcon. You can follow me on Twitter @FalconTheHero, and we'll see you next time right here on GameRanx.